Welcome to Unit 3, Part B. The puppies are sleeping, but the Pix is not. So we'll see if we can do this today. All right, so the Devonian period, so 416 million years ago, this is referred to as the age of fish because many of the dominant species of the time on our planet was fish. And we can see again the movement of the continents. So during the Devonian period, we have ferns. Ferns got really big. Again, those plants are getting bigger and bigger. Ferns are still really um, restricted to their habitat. They still need a moist environment because ferns still reproduce by spores. During this time period, however, we're going to see a change from so we went from non-vascular plants to non-vascular plants with spores, vascular plants with spores, which would be ferns. And you guys are familiar with ferns. And then we go from vascular to seeds. And so we're going to start getting what are called gymnosperms. Gymnosperms or naked seeds. These are plants that reproduce using like cones. Okay. Or you've seen like the helicopters. So those are naked seeds. And this structure of a seed versus a spore allowed plants to move inland because they didn't require that moist environment. We also have a group of fish called chondrichthyes. Chondrichthyes are cartilaginous fish. Those, sorry, would be, you guys are familiar with sharks. Sharks, their internal skeleton is not bone. It's not a calcium deposit. It's not mineral deposits. It's cartilage. So these are called cartilaginous fish. We also have skates and rays. You guys may know what stingrays are. Skates look very similar. They just don't have that barb like stinger on them. So we're going to start seeing some of these organisms that we're familiar with today. So the Devonian is known for the rise of the amphibians. This is where we're going to have, and we see all these different transitional organisms that are going to give us the characteristics that we need in order to get out of the water and onto the land. Most of them are, when we look at the tetrapods, meaning they have 4, limbs. You can see where the fins have been modified into limbs. And so as they were able to get these organisms, and this is a very important transitional fossil, as they were able to get out of the water, they could get away from predation. Because remember, most of life now is still in the water. We have some insects on land. So not only do they have plenty of food up there, they can get away from those nasty predators by getting up out of the water. A couple things had to happen. First, you had to have lungs. All right, so we can see the lobed fish. Okay, so we talk about these particular type of fish are air gulpers. So they go up to the surface of the water, gulp air, and then go back down. So their gills have developed into lungs. And then we had, again, the ability to get those fins modified in order to get out of the water. So as they started to be able to gulp that air, betas do that too. If you ever have a little beta fish, that's what they do. Okay. So they don't have to filter, they don't have to get the oxygen out of the water. They can just go up and gulp it. And then we can see the development with all the transitional fossils here as those bones have changed over time that have allowed them to form from fins into limbs to get out of the water to escape predation. The coelacanth, coelacanth was a really remarkable organism because we have fossils of the coelacanth. The coelacanth is kind of what we felt was one of the transitional fossils to go from fish to amphibians. And we believed it had gone extinct 65 million years ago. And then one was found off the coast of Africa in 1938. So we have found that there are 2 populations left. So there's one in, like I said, in off the coast of Africa, and there's also one in Indonesia. These fish can get up to 6 feet long and 200 pounds. Huge. And then recently, 2004, we found Tiktaalik. Tiktaalik is an awesome transition fossil from fish to amphibians, and I kind of already introduced this guy to you in your one test question when we were just looking at the evidence for evolution. And we have so many different things that we use. Then when we talk about looking, A, it is a fossil. B, we can look at its anatomy and do some comparison anatomy with other organisms. If we were able to get any cells, most likely not, but we could have done molecular. But like I said, most of the time there's nothing preserved in this type of fossil that would give us that kind of information. But we could use comparative anatomy, and I know some of you guys talked about biochemical, which was great. And that's all I was looking is that, if you understood those things, those tools that we use. Oh, and some of you guys talked about biogeographical. Where is it located in the world? So lots of different things you could have used for that particular test question. The Devonian extinction, they really haven't found like a single cause for that event. Some of the possible causes would be rapid cooling and heating of our planet, so extreme temperature changes, volcanoes, or a meteor impact. At this transition period, you could say, about 70 to 80% of animal life went extinct. The Carboniferous period is one of my favorites. That was 359 million years ago. And you can see how we're starting to get those land masses coming together. This period was known for its huge amount of plant growth. We had vast forests, and with that vast forest, we had a ton of oxygen being kicked out. So we have a huge diversity. So our gymnosperms are plants that reproduce by naked seeds. They are increasing in that diversity. It is called the Carboniferous periods because when all of this plant matter died, they formed the huge coal deposits that we have today. So when you are burning coal, you are burning fossil remains of these plants that lived in this time period. Here are some of the Carboniferous animals. Now, if you don't like insects, you're not going to like this. Okay. Especially if you're watching the Planet Earth movie. Oh, it'll show you some things you're not going to like. So because of the high oxygen content of our planet at this time period, it allowed for our arthropods to get huge. So we're talking about our insects. So you could have a spider that was the size of a small dog. We have millipedes and that are like 10 feet long. I mean, it's like they're huge. Dragonflies with a wingspan of like, I don't know, they're just absolutely huge, like 6 feet. So again, they're going to show you some of those in the video. It's crazy how big these things got. So up to this point, the amphibians have dominated the land. However, they were still tied to water. Those of you that understand about amphibians, they have skin. They don't have scales. Okay. And because they have skin instead of scales, they have to live again in moist environments. Okay. They also have to lay their egg. Their part of their life cycle involves water. Their eggs are laid in the water. So they're still tied to bodies of water. During this period of time, though, we start seeing scales. So whether, some kind of mutation that led to skin cells being modified into scales, right? The scales prevented water loss. We also simultaneously, the egg that the amphibians laid, there were some modifications there too. When I talk about modifications, again, I'm talking about mutations that have been selected or against for. Those adaptations have allowed the formation of what's called an amniotic egg. An amniotic egg does not have to be laid in water. So we can see some of these organisms that we think would be very similar to what we saw during the Carboniferous period. So here is an amniotic egg. So for those of you that don't quite understand what we mean by that. So you have the yolk, all right? So the yolk, and you guys are all familiar with your chicken eggs, right? That is the fatty food storage for the developing embryo. The developing embryo would be right here. What we have here is what is called the amnion. The amnion is a really important thing. It is a thin, here's the thin membrane that goes around basically the developing embryo. Okay, it is a protective membrane. It allows for gas exchange. And then with the placement of the shell, okay, the shell would allow for the gases to go in and out and keep the embryo moist, keep it from drying out. So it had multiple, so it's basically, it doesn't allow water to go through, but it does allow the gases, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, which we need. Okay, living cells need oxygen. They need to get rid of their waste, CO2, due to cellular respiration. Okay. So we also, I mean, we think about, we have an amniotic sac that goes around us and placental mammals, right? So we're going to get there. We're going to go from the egg, and then we're going to keep continuing through with this amnion concept. So now we get to the Permian period, and we can start seeing some things that some of you guys might be going, oh, we're starting to get to dinosaurs. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Oh, here is your Permian period. Notice again, the continents are coming together. So the Permian period, this is where we start getting our reptiles. Our reptiles start to diversify. Most of today's insects can be traced to this time period, so their ancestors. So those lovely cicadas we're hearing right now, their ancestors can be traced back to this period of time. We can see here our amphibian ancestor and how we kind of divide out. We go towards, we have turtles, we have some basically water dinosaurs. We have ichthyo, that has to do with kind of like a fish-like dinosaur. And we're going to end up going towards mammals, break up. And then we have our true dinosaurs, our flying dinosaurs that give us our birds. Here's our reptiles, our lizards and snakes. So you can see where this all branched out from this amphibian. So we kind of talk about how we have this reptile family tree where our amniotes get split. It divides into amphibians and reptiles, right? So once it splits by amphibians and reptiles, with that ability to lay that amniotic egg, it splits again into 3 groups. We basically get like mammalian type reptiles, dinosaur type reptiles, and then just reptiles. And we can see it here in our family tree. So here's where we have vertebrates. These are just organisms that have a backbone. And then tetrapods, right? That means they have 4 limbs. Okay. And then we split here into our amniotes. So we have, these would be where these are non-amniotic. So they have non-amniotic eggs. And then over here they do. And then we split them even further based on some other developmental parts, mostly their jaw structures and stuff, which we're not going to get into too much detail on that. So the Permian mass extinction is like we often call it the Great Dying. It is the biggest extinction that we have identified on our planet. Our planet went through huge climate change during this period due to massive volcanic eruptions. These eruptions are thought to have lasted like 2 million years. So long, long period of this volcanic activity. Some other hypotheses include meteorite impact, effects from a supernova, that's basically a star dying nearby, and plate tectonics. So lots of different things just kind of possibly came together all at once, or coincide over those couple million years. But um, it was not a good time for living organisms on our planet. And we have a lot of proof about the volcanic eruption. We have what are called the Siberian traps. This is all um, volcanic rock that was put down from these volcanoes that had erupted. So during the Permian extinction, we look at numbers, 90% of species went extinct. Less than a third of the animals on land survived, and almost all, don't ask me what I wanted there, almost all the blank died. Oh, I think it's like almost all the trees, like plants, like it was bad. So yeah, I think it's trees. So let me put a little, I'm like, what am I trying to say there? Trees should be plural. Okay. So again, we're gonna go back to small plants, brushes, shrubs. Okay. And this didn't just happen, on land. When we're talking about this mass extinction, we're also talking about with this gassing, and you can see here of the volcanoes. It's going to cause different types of chemicals like sulfuric acid, basically acid rain to fall into the ocean. It's going to change the pH. It's going to mess up everything. It doesn't just mess up the land, it's going to mess up the water, the oceans as well. So be sure to watch the videos, do the readings for your assignments. Get those in. I did bump the due dates up a little bit on those because it is kind of shorter. This unit is shorter, and I kind of wanted to have a little bit of uh, time in there to get them graded and back to you before you took your quiz, because then you will know what you got right, what you got wrong, and I try to add details to help clarify where you went wrong as well. All right, so that is the end of the unit 3. Make sure you get all your work done, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Bye.